Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to another episode of Modernize or Die, the CFML News Edition. September 17th, 2019, and Brad, thanks for joining me.
Yes, happy to be here.
So I'm Gavin Pickin. I'm a software consultant for Ortus Solutions, and Brad Wood, the lead architect for Ortus Solutions. So,
if you say so.
That's what it says today. Our titles changed randomly.
We should do the Roadrunner thing where we have like made up Latin names for us to see if anybody notices, like Bertus, Fastus, something. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into the news. So first, and hot off the press, CommandBox 4.8.0 is released. I think you just did it a few minutes ago, so we were running a little bit late today for those of you that are watching live. And the main reason is because Brad was busy releasing CommandBox. So tell us what's in this one.
I was busy releasing CommandBox. I just sent the tweets and just finished the blog post. And I just hit submit on the homebrew poll, like literally as you were starting the stream. So, CommandBox 4.8. This is a minor release, and it's just kind of a big old collection of enhancements and features and some bug fixes that have gathered up since about July when I did the 4.7 release. Some of the notable fixes in here are you can cache HTTP downloads. So if you use that trick to start up a Lucy server snapshot using that update URL, you can do HTTP plus cached / and the rest of the URL. And CommandBox will store that zip file on the local artifacts. So that's a nice little feature. I have a handful of pull requests from the community, which is really nice. Kai Koenig sent me a pull to get better support on Linux, I believe, when you use the edit command to open up files and things. I also got a couple pull requests from John Berquist in this release. A new feature I didn't even know about in Bash and PowerShell is you can type CD / just like a hyphen. Not slash, I meant dash, a hyphen. And that'll change back to whatever your previous working directory was. That's a nice little feature when you're jumping back and forth between two folders. So CommandBox 4.8 does that. The other pull request John Berquist sent me was actually two pull requests. For better tab completion. So now when you are changing into like a directory that has a space in the name, if you just type it, it'll error without the quotes around it. So the tab completion in CommandBox is now smart enough to auto quote anything with a space in it, and the tab completion still works even with only the starting quote, which is a super time saver. And when you do native binary operations like exclamation point get commit and then a file name or something, you can get tab completion on those now from files and folders. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's a handful of just super helpful little enhancements and things that are all in there. Some fun stuff in environment variables in your package scripts, like on server start, you can access environment variables now with all the intercept data. I even pass any local shell environment variables into the server process as you start, just to give you more options on how you want to configure your servers. So. That
Very
and more
cool.
is all in the 4.8 release. The blog post just got put out. It'll be in the show notes, and I'm going to paste it into our chat here as well. You can read the full release notes, all the features, improvements, and bugs there. So please give it a try and let us know if you have any questions.
Very, very cool. Okay, well, it sounds like some other people have been busy releasing stuff lately. So we have a new stable release of Lucy and a release candidate. And so it looks like 5.3.3.62 is being released, and it's been already added to ForgeBox. So you guys can get that. It's already available. And the release candidate 5.3.4.54 release candidate is on ForgeBox. Remember, it's not a stable release, so if you want it, you got to ask for it, and you can do that. And we've got in the show note, we have the little server start CF engine equals Lucy at 5.3.4.54-RC. And so
it's a mouthful. If you remember, if you're ever thinking to yourself, "Oh crap, what was that?" Recent Lucy release, little trick from the CLI, you can type ForgeBox show Lucy, or for that matter, ForgeBox Show Adobe, and you can see the last like 4 or 5 versions right there. It's a nice little quick trick. And when you type server start CF engine equals, you can hit tab on like Lucy @ and then hit tab, and you'll get tab completion. So we don't expect you to memorize all these version numbers.
Yeah, and I love the tab completion. Just remember it. Put 5.3 before you hit tab, because otherwise you'll get every version in. And we're pretty good about adding them to ForgeBox, so like every little one is there. So there's a lot. So I didn't know about the show just giving you the last so many. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, one of the updates in the release candidate is that you can't set an initial password from the web admin screen anymore for security. That makes sense. So
yeah, that's a big change. And that's actually a ticket I put in like 3 years ago. I don't know about 3. I put it in a long time ago. Because the problem is if you're doing a local server, no one cares, right? Set the password, whatever. But if if you're standing up a VPS or something that's public on the internet, you install Lucy, next done. Well, actually, the Lucy installer will try to collect a password, but if you haven't set that, then basically the administrator just lets whoever the first person who comes to it set the password. So if a malicious user, if a hacker found your administrator before you get a chance to get around to setting that default password, Lucy would just happily accept any old password from them, and they could lock you out of your own administrator, which would be a little bad. So, the big change in the release candidate is that, if you just spin up a Lucy server with CommandBox and you open up the server administrator, instead of saying, "Ho there, give us a password and we'll blindly use it," it says, "Nope, there's no password set. And if you want it set, you got to go write it into a text file and save it somewhere on your hard drive and click a button." Now, the good news is, if you're a CommandBox user, I mean, that's good news already. But if you're a CommandBox user and you have CFconfig installed, you have several other options at your fingertips to make that even easier. Because I'll admit, for local development, it's a bit of a pain, right? You spin up a Lucy server, you're like, "Oh, let me go jump into the admin." You're like, "Oh, crap, there's no password." Right now I have to go do stuff. So with CommandBox, you can drop in a JSON file or just have an environment variable set called CFconfig_admin password and set to whatever you want your default password. And any CommandBox servers you start will just suck that in with CFconfig and use it. So there's a silver lining on that usability wise. If you're on CommandBox, you have some better things at your disposal.
Yeah, I remember having to get into the XML configuration files and go and find the password, the HWPS or whatever it was, sit it in the XML file and mess with that stuff in the old days. So much easier these days. So, but cool. So the new versions are out. Go check them out. They're on ForgeBox already, and obviously at the Lucy site. If you go to dev.lucy.org, there's an announcement about it, and we'll got a link in the show notes as well. So, yep. So next on the list is Ortus Solutions to release the new website. So actually going to show you what it looks like. So it's so space age that we actually have a spaceman on it. But if you scroll down the page a little more, you see another screen. I'm just going to flick to that. I thought this was kind of cool because it has a couple little stats, So 250 plus legacy migration projects, 150 plus open source projects, and 2.2 K, which 2,200 pull requests resolved, which is pretty neat. And
I remember when we hit 1,000 pull requests, and it's crazy to think that we're well over 2,000 now.
Yeah, it's really gone up pretty quickly lately. So,
I mean, when I have a CommandBox release and like half of the features are sent to me via pull request,
it's pretty cool.
You can see why.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So yep. So nothing too special, but for us, it's a big deal. A new website, adding lots of new features and stuff in there, and trying to keep it fresh. And we like the space theme. We're trying to keep things modern, and space travel, I guess, is pretty modern. So if you go to ortussolutions.com, you can check out the new site, and just let us know if you got any feedback on it. We're pretty proud of it. So thanks to Esme and Sonia, they did a lot of work on that site. We appreciate them. And
there were a couple of our designers, if you don't know.
Yep, designer programmers, just to be clear.
True.
But
true.
Also, Adobe's new forms have been released. So if you go to community.adobe.com now, you'll see a list of all the forums they have. And obviously the Cold Fusion one is one of the new ones too. So there is a little sore point to this. There always is. But some of the community members are not too happy that you have to click on print and publishing to find Cold Fusion. It's not listed under the web development tier.
Yeah, and that was really surprising. I mean, I understand that Adobe at a high level is kind of rolling all of their, kind of disparate product forms together into one big, giant thing. I think it's very unfortunate that, it's one more thing that Adobe's, no longer powering in Cold Fusion. But I get they want to consolidate. But it just doesn't make any sense that they have a web and design category, but Cold Fusion's not listed under it. It's under print and publishing. I assumed it was a mistake, but I pointed it out on Twitter to one of the Adobe engineers, and they just didn't reply. So I'm like, well, I assume that was on purpose, but can you explain?
Just so you guys know, Dreamweaver is in both. Dreamweaver, which everybody used for web design, is in print and publishing, as well as design and web. So, yeah, they can be in multiple categories. It's not like, oh, there's not enough room in here. There's plenty of things in there. So, and Kai Koenig even put a tweet out there saying, basically, one might argue that if Adobe categorizes as a web development platform and, puts Cold Fusion in the print and publishing instead of web design, it's not a good indicator for the state of Cold Fusion. He's telling people, go use Lucy instead. So it's obviously upset a few people.
There's reasons to use Lucy. I don't know if that's one of them, but I have a feeling whoever categorized that probably is not in the Cold Fusion team, and it's probably some, marketing person behind a desk somewhere that doesn't even know what Cold Fusion is. But
so
yeah,
maybe because Cold Fusion has like PDF functionality in it, they think it's print and publishing. Who knows? So, anyways, it was released.
It touches PDFs. It must be print and publishing.
Yep. But we have the direct link to it. If you go to print and publishing, you can find it. And that also relates to another thing here that Charlie has updated his, lost content from the Adobe forums blog post, and so he has a couple of updates. So one update is the cutover didn't happen until September 12th instead of, I think it was going to be the 9th. And so in there, content created between September 22nd and midday the 9th is meant to be missing. But they did some work, and I guess that they've been syncing the forums with the portal. So you may find the portal is up to date more than the forums were. So not all the data is lost and everything. So we've got a link to that blog post there from Charlie. And so I guess the portal is going to be housing some of the content that was lost, and it's still not completely up to date, but it's more up to date. So
just to be clear, are the portal and the forums both going to live on side by side in the future?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting, because we'll actually notice that a lot of forum posts on the portal site show up as they look like blog posts almost. So they show up in some of the blog feeds, and so I'll click on one thinking, oh, this is another blog post, to add to the show notes, and I'm like, oh, actually this is just someone asking a question, so I'm not sure.
Weird.
I think the portal is kind of like a combination of a few different things.
I kind of expected that part of the portal to go away in favor of the new site, but I'm curious if they're planning on having them both side by side and syncing the data. I don't know that Adobe's had a lot of official announcements that kind of explain what the goal is here. But
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. So if anybody knows, officially or unofficially, let us know. Well, we'll share that information, spread that out. So yeah. And that also is good news for those of you who remember our EULA, the Euler discussion from last week. I guess some of that content is living over on the portal now, that since the forum would have removed it. So there was a lot of content there, and it's still ongoing. So
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yep. And then during my soapbox episode,
I'm just here to make fun of Gavin while he talks. That's my goal.
That's okay. It's not a solo job there too. Everyone does it. But during my conversation with Charlie on the soapbox episode 7 just came out, talking to Charlie about his background on Cold Fusion, but also working through the Docker with the Cold Fusion images at CF Summit. We also talked a little teeny tiny bit about the Euler stuff. He's obviously commenting and adding to the forum post there as well. But he's pretty sad and disappointed about the way it's been treated so far with Adobe, and we might actually have a special soapbox episode soon where he gives us a lot more detail, because I guess he's been on some of the phone calls with Rakshif and some of the salespeople during this process, and so he's got some firsthand experience with this whole Euler situation. So he's gonna share that. If you read through everything in the forum, you'll get that, but we thought we'd give it to you in a nice, consumable chunk. So we might see Soapbox episode 8 be a Charlie talks about Adobe Euler. So we'll see if we can get that arranged. But the rest of our conversation is available. So if you go to soapbox.modernize.io, or you go to the YouTube and look at the Soapbox channel we have on the Ortus Solutions blog, YouTube, you can get that episode as well. Also, you were busy last Friday doing a webinar. Do you want to tell us how it went?
I've already blocked it out of my memory. Thanks for bringing up such a horrible memory. I did a webinar last Friday. That much is true. It was on the new CommandBox Service Manager module. I mentioned it last week. It's a pretty cool module. It's one of our commercial modules for CommandBox, which means you give us money, we give you a module that makes you save time. And it lets you create Windows services and Linux System D services and Mac OS Launch D services out of your CommandBox servers, so they can start on boot, they can automatically restart on failure, and they can otherwise behave like a typical daemonized Cold Fusion service would. So use it for local development, use it for production, use it for staging, wherever you want to have servers that auto start, you can do that. And so we have support for the 3 main operating systems, and my webinar, which is recorded, you can check it out. Just kind of goes through, shows all the features, shows how to use it. So
yep, and that's
what that was.
Yeah, we have it available. It should be on YouTube as well as on Vimeo, and the link will be in the show notes. So okay, so that's the new news, and let's get on to sort of our conference news here. So CF Summit is 2 weeks. I'm like, I better finish my presentation.
Dang.
So 2 weeks
What
from today.
What are you presenting on again, Gavin?
The biggest bang for your buck with testing. So showing people how to use
Big Bang Theory? That's what I heard.
So I'm going to be doing some testing, showing people how to get started with it. If they're not using CommandBox or anything like that, they can still use tests on their legacy code and still get a big bang for their buck, and save some time and money. But
nice. So you should make people pay you to come to your session just because of all the time they're going to save in money.
We'll see if they can chip in with some
pass a hat near the end of your session.
Yeah, I'll gladly take Top Golf coupons. Credits.
Top Golf. So I think the real question everybody wants to know, Gavin, is the early bird pricing still in effect?
It looks like it is this, unless they haven't updated their website. But it looks like on the cfsummit.adobeevents.com, it still has the register now early bird price at $99. So early bird price is still good.
There you go.
Everything there is good. So again, it's at the Mirage, October 1st and 2nd, just about 2 weeks away. Biggest conference of the year, 500 plus people. They have a good party, and hopefully we'll be podcasting live from the party this year.
Yeah,
that's the plan. It's early bird, like I said, $99 gets you breakfast, lunch, and 2 days of great content. And then we got a lot of great speakers. Luis, Brad, Eric, and myself are talking from Ortus. We got Rakshif and some Adobe speakers coming as well, and a lot of community members. Pete Freitag, Brian Klass, Matt Clemente, Charlie Earhart, etc. are all going to be there as well. So some of the familiar faces and some new ones as well. A lot of great sessions, all available online at cfsummit.adobeevents.com, and then /speakers to get the speakers, and then you can check out the schedule there as well.
Yeah, the amount of training that kind of sandwiches Cold Fusion Summit is, I think, a big asset for it. There was an interesting conversation. We should have put this on the show notes to talk about. In the CFML Slack today, somebody came on, talking about, looking at moving to a different language other than Cold Fusion due to difficulty of finding developers, which is a common topic that comes up. They're in the Netherlands, so I don't know exactly what the developer market looks like there. But it's a common issue is finding people to program in Cold Fusion. Of course, the conversation turned to several different people, myself included, talking about, the success they've had finding Java developers, .NET developers, PHP developers that are smart cookies, and just training them to learn Cold Fusion. If you think about it, if you took a developer and you sent them to Cold Fusion Summit and you had them, pick up one of the Adobe trainings ahead of time, they, get 2 days worth of sessions of the summit, they go to one of the Ortus, talks, think how much of a head start you could get a developer on, picking up modern Cold Fusion practices, as opposed to the alternative being, throwing Cold Fusion in the trash and learning a whole new stack from scratch because you can't find developers.
Yeah, and think about it too. I mean, just the cost of doing CF Summit, a pre-conference training, and then Ortus's training after it for under $1,000. That's crazy. Like, I can't even get any conference in California, which would save me, flying time, for under like $1,500 to $2,000 for just the 2-day conference. So if you could do our training, which obviously has a price, CF Summit entry fee, and then the training has, pre-conference training is a different price too. All of those less than $1,000. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
5 days.
I think that trainings like this are underutilized, to be honest. I mean, there's already a lot of stuff just out there on the internet in general. The modern CFML book that Luis recently, came out with, the Learn CF in a Week resources. There was already a lot of static resources, but these in-person trainings, they happen all around the world, attached to all the different conferences. I wish people would really tap into them more. The amount of training you can receive in just 1 day or 2 days, I think is totally worth it. And when people are, in a place where they're having a hard time getting Cold Fusion developers, that do modern best practices, I think that there's just a lot of opportunity that's out there right now with what we have in place with these conferences and the trainings that book in them. People need to use it.
Yeah, and actually last year at CF Summit, I ran into a guy, I think his name was Chris. Don't remember his last name. Don't want to butcher another last name on the show. But Chris, he was actually like a React developer, so JavaScript developer, coming to learn Cold Fusion because now he's working with it and he's tying them together. And he was amazed at what, CommandBox and the package management with ForgeBox and everything else could do, because the stuff they're writing at his shop, nothing like it. So he was all excited and a little scared to go back and tell them they need to change everything, because they could do it the right way, but they're not. But he was, he was kind of like, oh, Cold Fusion, he had that impression that it wasn't modern or anything else. And when he got there, he felt bitter about his decision to join that shop. And, he feels like, there is a future, and he's, more positive about it, and, looking to really advance.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, PHP has the same problems. I think some of the, the older Ruby apps have the same problems. People don't want to come work at a shop and work on legacy, in any language, and of course, Cold Fusion has lots of legacy. So, I mean, if you're looking to hire people and you're, not using source control, not using testing, not using automation, not using frameworks, and everything's a legacy pile of spaghetti code, I mean, of course, no one wants to come work there. I mean, and if any language were the case, nobody would want to come work there. So, I mean, you've got to be a shop that people want to come work at first and foremost. To me, the language is not the big barrier there.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit more about the training we have before and after. So the pre-conference training, the big thing is the Adobe Cold Fusion Specialist Certificate Program. I heard they've got about 4 rooms now put aside for this. They got a lot of stuff. And actually, a little inside information. So Gray Desmond, I think it was Dakuwan on Twitter, just tweeted. He said that work spring for me to get the Cold Fusion Specialist cert. Who am I to say no? Just got the training materials in time to see if there's anything I missed in the last decade or so. Spoiler, I'm sure there is. The first video, all the samples are shown in script. So he was... I don't know if that was a good thing or not, because I think he was talking about switching from tags to script recently, but positive for modern CFML, the training is in script, because a lot of people were worried that it would be all tags or something like that.
I think that bodes well for the modernity, if that was the right word to use, of the training. Yeah.
And the other thing, I'm not sure who's tweeted this one. I didn't make a note here, but someone said they're working on the training, trying to get all ready for the specialist program, and they're like, wait a minute, that's Nolan Irk. everywhere there's training or learning, Nolan's there, and that's true. He's one of the people working on the videos, and I believe he's one of the instructors at CF Summit. Secret's out if it was a secret. Sorry about that. But yeah, so
secret. I've got a secret.
Adobe is calling on, trusted resources in the Cold Fusion community to make this training work. And so it's good to see Script. It's good to see Nolan working on it. He's a great trainer, does a lot of training. He's a full-time consultant doing a lot of training for a lot of companies. So it's good to see that. So the Adobe Cold Fusion Specialist Certificate Program, if you're not signed up for it, there are limited seats available, and you have 20 hours of video content to get through before it. So you got 2 weeks. That's 10 hours a week. You better
if you sign up the day before, you're doing an all-nighter, man.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to be winging it. But there's a lot of information on the cfsummit.adobeevents.com site. If you click on the pre-conference, you can see all the requirements, what you'll go over.
I'll just slam that registration link in the chat, too.
Yep. And then there's more information. There's a blog post about it, too. So we've linked those in the show notes. And that is at the Mirage as well, the day before, so September 30th, and it's from 8 o'clock in the morning till I believe 5 or 6 that night. But there are also additional trainings. So we have 3 additional trainings if you're not going to do the certification. So in other words, if you don't want homework before you show up, you can do Pete Freitag's Cold Fusion Security Workshop. That's a great hands-on one where you actually get to fix some broken code. I believe he uses like some bank software as his theme. It's a great one. You get like a little VM, so everything's ready for you to go. That works really good.
It's not a real bank. It's a fake bank software.
Yeah,
that would be bad if Pete actually hacked into like a real website. I mean, it'd be awesome, and they'd like take him out in handcuffs at the end of the session.
Well, we can maybe fake that. It is Vegas. There's plenty of handcuffs around.
Yeah, we've come close to seeing some people drug out in handcuffs in Vegas, so anything could be arranged.
Yep. And then the second one is the one with Charlie. Charlie Earhart is doing a going from 0 to 60 with Docker and Cold Fusion images. So again, I mentioned we had the Soapbox episode 7 for the Modernize or Die podcast, where I interviewed Charlie all about his history and also that session and workshop. She's doing a session and a workshop. And he talked about what he's going to cover. And a lot of it's just to get the word out there, because these images have been out for a year or more, and no one really talks about them much. You always hear about Lucy's images and our CommandBox images, but there's a lot of good things included. And so Charlie talks a lot about that and what you're going to expect if you go there, why you may want to go there, and he talks about different resources for learning Docker and some benefits. And so it was a really good episode. I hope you guys can go check that out. So soapbox.modernizeordie.io, or you can watch it on YouTube. And then there's another one here. The Adobe Cold Fusion team is going to do a training on performance monitoring toolset. So they're going to take you through that toolset. If you're not using Fusion Reactor or C Fusion and you want to use Adobe's built-in one, it's a great toolset, and they've done a lot of work on that to release it for CF 2018. So they're going to be going through and showing us that. And if you go to their website, there's actually a blog post talking about the workshop and what they're going to cover if you want more information as well. But you can pick one of those 3, and that is the day before the training.
Day before the conference.
Sorry. Yeah, day before the conference is the pre-workshop trainings. And after, Brad, tell us about our boot camp.
Well, you're going to come, and we're going to give you the boot. So the Ortus training is a post-conference training, so that way we're not interfering with any of those good pre-conference trainings we just mentioned, but we're appealing to the Padawans and the Jedi Knights alike with our 0 to Hero, backed by popular demand, which is one of the ones we did last year. And that basically gets you up and running on CommandBox, gets you up to a hero, Gavin. So basically an understanding of how it works, how to use it, and it's all built around building an app from scratch. So you walk away with that with a working application built on top of CommandBox and a bunch of functional knowledge about it. And then if you've already done that in a previous year, or if you're familiar with CommandBox, we have our Hero to Superhero API edition. So that one's going to be really fun. Luis has done this one time in the past, and I think Spain in a
Yep.
workshop that he did there. And so this will be the first time he's done it in English. he's going to translate all of his content. But it's going to be building, I believe, a headless CMS, all based on a REST API in CommandBox using modularity and all the JWT cores, all the cool stuff that is pretty standard operating procedures for a REST API. So if you're already familiar with CommandBox and you want to be a superhero, we got the Hero to Superhero one. So that's at the area for Aria. I don't know how you say it. Resort and Casino there in Las Vegas. And it's after the conference on the 3rd and 4th. So,
yep, we're going to be in the executive suite. So a nice little sit-up. We're going to have a real nice sit-up there. And we're making the list. So if anybody has some snack preferences, we're working on our snack list. So we got cheese, meats and cheese, more cheese. Brad loves cheese. But if you guys want some certain snacks or anything, if you're coming to the training, let us know. But we're getting ready, 2 weeks away, so we're excited. It looks like we got a pretty full group there. So if you want a spot, grab it now, and you can use the podcast 10 discount code to get 10% off the price there.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that we're in the suite. The Ortus trainings are always a very I was going to say intimate affair, but I don't want that to be taken the wrong way since this is Vegas.
Cozy.
The Ortus trainings are always a small group. We usually cap a training at 10 to 15 people, depending on how many assistants we have. So it's definitely not going to be you in a room with 150 other people. It's going to be you with like maybe 9 to 14 other people. And it's a lot of one-on-one personal help. So, we say run this command, you get an error, right? In 2 seconds, Gavin's standing behind you, walking you through it to help fix it. So there's really a high value of interaction directly with the instructors in the Ortus training. So
yeah, and it's nice to have that sort of cohort feel too. You guys make friends. A lot of times we'll even go out to dinner afterwards, after the first day, and everyone kind of hangs out and in a more relaxed setting. And at the end of it, you're not just benefiting from the training and networking, but you've got some friends and some other people to call on the Slack channel to help you out as you go. And it's kind of good to see, come back future conferences and run into those same people again. So
if you're lucky like Gavin, you eventually land a job working at Ortus afterwards.
Yep, that's how it happened.
So yeah, the dark side.
So when we say no pressure, there might be. Do well, and you may get a job later, maybe. We are always growing our team, so. But yep, with that said, if you can't make it to Vegas, we did have one in India, but sorry, sold out, too late. Luis will be in India
Filled
for that.
Sucker up.
So yeah, obviously he's going to be there 16th and 17th for a boot camp. If you're in the area and you can't go to the training, just reach out to him on Twitter or something. He might be able to meet up for coffee or something. Like he's always wanting to reach out and meet, CommandBox lovers, or at least people are talking about CommandBox. He will talk about CommandBox all day long.
Yeah, and that's the Bangalore, India area, which I think is a pretty big area.
Yep. So he's there, and so at the same time, you guys are going to be at CF Camp doing your thing. So in Munich, Germany, we're going to have CF Camp on the 17th and 18th of October. And then we have training before. So if you guys are going to Germany, you get your tickets booked. And that's about a month away now. Wow, everything's coming up fast. So
I know, yeah. Hitting that time of year.
Yeah, so at the CF Camp, obviously, their tickets are on sale. It's a month away. They have a cool party thing. I think Mark Drew and Rod Dudley are going to do the 3rd episode of Codemasters after the first day. So definitely check that out. A lot of great speakers, a really diverse group, a lot of new topics and new speakers. So it sounds like it's going to be a really good CF Camp. But when you book your tickets, make sure you get there early, right? Because you and Eric have something planned for beforehand.
That's right. So the Hero to Superhero that we're doing at CF Summit, I'll be leading that one as well as a pre-conference training in front of CF Camp. So exact same session. So if you're across the pond, so to speak, and you can't make it over to Vegas, we'll be doing it there in Munich. And then Eric Peterson, in his very first year at CF Camp, will be doing the what's the name of his? It's test box, isn't it?
BDD.
Looking forward to hearing the show notes.
Yep.
There we go. So he'll be doing BDD and test box. Oh, there it is, right there in the show notes. So definitely, we've got 2 of those Ortus trainings, and those are the 2 days prior to the conference. So, and that's not the only trainings. There's also PreConference doing some stuff there. So there's a lot of a lot of activity happening at CF Camp as well, which is good for the people who can't make it cheaply and easily across the pond to the good old US of A.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, there's other options. If you go to cfcamp.org/pre-conference.html, you can see all the options there. And
throw that link in the chat here too.
Cool.
Boom.
Okay, and so that takes us. Oh, by the way, the podcast 10 does work on those trainings for the Ortus trainees in CF Camp as well.
Oh, the discount code, yeah.
Discount code. So don't forget the discount code. Okay, so now we're up to blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we got a pretty good stash of blog posts here. So the first thing here, we have a blog post, and I guess there's a bug with Fusion Reactor and Redis session management. So I guess on Adobe ColdFusion using Redis, I guess Adobe Performance Monitoring Toolset and Fusion Reactor were fighting over the sessions.
Haven't even seen this one yet. Interesting.
And yeah, it pops up with basically a really high CPU usage. I guess they're going back and forth to Redis about the sessions, and I'm not sure if they're getting into some type of loop or not, but we got the blog post there. So if you're using...
all the images in that blog post are broken for me. Is that just me?
Not sure.
404s. Wah, wah.
Yep, looks like it. So
I'm gonna go harass some people at Fusion Reactor right now.
So
here we go.
So if you guys are using Adobe ColdFusion with Fusion Reactor or the Performance Monitoring Tools Kit, keep an eye on your CPU. You may have an issue there, and they are working to resolve it in Fusion Reactor right now. So hopefully they can get a blog or a fix out for that pretty soon. Evagoras is also posting a few things this week. So he's got one about adding custom user metrics to New Relic using the Java Agent API. So I guess he has one just using ColdFusion with Java itself. So they have a couple of different options. So he has 2 blog posts on that. And basically, he had a client who needed app dynamics set up and, logging their information to New Relic. So he went through, and luckily ColdFusion can leverage Java, so it made it pretty easy for him. So he went through being able to, add all that custom data into their platform so they could query it and get that information back. So a couple of blog posts there on that. So that's at evagoras.com, and he has 2 blog posts, as I mentioned. So one is using Java, and the other one is using the Java Agent API.
Fusion Reactor has been duly harassed about their missing images. I'm sure they'll get on that. All right. There's Evagoras' blog posts there in the chat as well.
Cool. And then Gregory Alexander, who we mentioned a couple weeks back, I think, for having a new ColdFusion blog, has released the Galaxy Blog 1.35, and he has a parallax scene. I guess that's a new feature. And so if you actually go to his blog post, as you scroll down the page, it actually loads a parallax scene. It's kind of interesting. And one of the first points inside that parallax scene is the Galaxy Blog is a next generation blog platform. Galaxy Blog is the most beautiful and functional open source ColdFusion blog in the world. So he's going for a big thing there. But it does look pretty cool. I like the little animation. The parallax scene is pretty cool.
What does it mean when you say parallax scene? Can you define that for our...
So when the background and the foreground moves differently as you scroll or adjust. I know that they used to have one of those Star Wars looking one on GitHub when you went to the wrong repo, and as you scrolled or moved, the front would change. So look, when you're looking at Netflix and you're waiting for a show, they have like the background moving one direction and the foreground moving a different way. It's kind of like a parallax effect. As you move, it's supposed to, move faster or slower, I believe.
I see.
But it looks like Gregory's been pretty busy on this. He's got a lot of great work. He's working really hard on the performance side of things with Google Speed and Lightbox. And so he actually has another blog post about the Galaxy Blog 1.35 with Lightbox results. So we'll see that as well. So it's pretty interesting. If you guys are looking for a new blog, check that out. And he's looking for help as well. So if you want to contribute to an open source project, maybe this is the way to go. I'm definitely going to have to check it out because obviously I work on CommandBox CMS and we use that at Ortus. And so kind of curious what he's doing differently. And
when are you going to have those parallax scenes ready, Gavin? I need those.
What do you need them, Brad? Because you're bored.
The same reason I need cheese, Gavin.
Yeah,
because
you're hungry.
Yep.
Yeah. So check that out. It's pretty cool. It's good to see more open source projects on another blog. Never hurts. It's good to see some fresh blood there. A lot of people are still using blog CFC and some of those older blogs for Cold Fusion development. So nice to see a new one. So looks like John Wish has been busy writing more blog posts on the coldfusion.adobe.com site. So regular expression anchors with multiple lines. So talks about how to use that in CFML. So pretty cool if you guys use regular expressions. I always recommend the regexer.com website. Makes it much easier to work with. But that's a great little blog post that John wrote up to help you with that. So talking about using anchors for multiple lines. So pretty cool.
Anchors away.
And then
nice. I haven't even read this one yet.
Man, see,
does the Adobe blog not have any like good syntax highlighting in their code blocks?
I'm not sure.
It's a shame.
Yep. So again, the next tweet is one by me talking about the Modernize Die Soapbox episode that I released with Charlie. So the link's there for YouTube and the Modernize Die website, so you can get to all of that. So if you want to listen to it on Spotify or you want to, watch it on YouTube, all the links are available there. And then, it was Gray Desmond that said, you got around to the comments video in the Cold Fusion Specialist course, and lo and behold, it's Self Shasta doing the tutorial. If it's learning involving CFML, he's everywhere. Everywhere. Insert creepy laugh.
I got a South of Shasta shirt from Nolan, or Get Into the Box last year.
Okay, cool.
And I had it on a Wednesday, which I went to church that night. And I swear I had like 5 people like ask me what my shirt meant. They're like, South of Shasta, what's that?
Do you know what it
means? So
he
really is everywhere.
Do you know what it actually means?
I believe he lives south of a city named Shasta. That's my understanding.
I wouldn't call it a city, but yeah, Mount Shasta, Northern California.
It's a mountain? Okay, I knew it was some kind of geographical
I think there's a
location.
town there too, but yeah, Mount Shasta is a pretty big mountain in Northern California. So, because he lives I think he's just north of Sacramento, just south of Shasta. So, but yeah, interesting name. And then looks like Ben Adele's been busy again. So.
Ooh. Fusion Reactor has already replied to my support request about their missing images, Gavin. That's the kind of results we like. Instant replies.
Very cool.
They told me they're working on the missing images. So there you go, folks.
Okay. Well, they should fix the problem first.
Well,
yeah. Yes, both.
It's all about the images.
Yep. But Ben Adele was working with the cache rule then. So he's been doing that memoization stuff. Been working through all the different parts of Lucy, and he was looking how you can do the immediately invoked function expressions with Lucy, and actually how to use cache within enclosures. So I didn't even think about that, but yeah, if you write a closure in Lucy, you can actually cache it, which is pretty neat. I never even considered it because it's not a full function. I didn't think it would work, but yeah, you can just throw the metadata right into your closure. And yeah, it'll actually cache it. So
it's kind of nice to see a real world example of the, how do you say it, immediately invoked function expression. That's written IIFE. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's pretty common in JavaScript. Lucy supports it, but Adobe Cold Fusion doesn't, because it doesn't tend to support the same kind of cool stuff that Lucy does. But basically, it's if you declare a closure, which is, function, and then the curly braces, and you wrap that entire declaration in parentheses, and you put another set of open-close parentheses at the end. So basically, the expression itself is a function in a variable, and when you say declare it and then immediately execute it, which is a kind of a cool way to encapsulate some code, and it kind of gives you an encapsulation of your variables as well. Any local variables you put in there don't bleed outside of that. Ironically, I remember when the ticket was first put in the Lucy bug base to have immediately invocable function expressions. One of the Lucy engineers actually pushed back and said, "Well, why would you ever want to do that?" Which, frankly, I think is a bit silly because, look at the JavaScript world. People have been using that for years and years. So anyway, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw a blog post detailing some actual real world examples of using that. So that's pretty cool. You always count on Ben to come up with some cool some cool ways to do something you've never thought of before.
Yeah, and that's what he says. Like, he may not even use this for production, but it's really cool for all the short-term, local development stuff where he's playing with something, testing something out. So it was pretty neat. So yeah, I like reading stuff like that. It always pushes your limits a little bit and learn something new. We also had a tweet from Michael Bourne. So this was last week. He was saying, anyone interested in a live coding stream tonight at 7 Eastern? I'm going to build a few CRUD screens with CommandBox and Quick for practice. So he's
Nice.
on Twitch doing live CFML coding. So,
and you thought Twitch was only for Minecraft streaming. Fooled you.
Yeah.
Right. Cold Fusion, baby.
So yeah, so he said it was a little scary, but he didn't want us to publicize it too much yet because he's just getting the hang of it. But I thought it was pretty cool, So if you guys want to follow him, and he'll tweet out when he's going live, and you guys can get on and sort of do some pair programming and look and see what he's exploring. He's missing stuff.
I'll be honest, I've never used Twitch. Can people communicate with you if they're watching your stream? How does that work?
I think you just message in the comments just like normal.
Okay.
So it's very similar to like going live on YouTube. But
if there's people that make a living playing like Minecraft on Twitch, I want to know, can I make a living writing like Cold Fusion code on Twitch? Is this a viable option?
Well, not if writing just Cold Fusion, but yeah, people could theoretically support you and everything. And yeah.
I guess the key is, are there thousands and thousands of people willing to watch you do whatever it is you're doing?
Maybe you. Yeah, maybe you. And so
right.
I don't
John
actually have the
Twitch stream.
I was going to say, I don't actually have this Twitch stream here, but maybe Michael, if you're in the chat, can you throw that in there?
There's the tweet URL. You can probably reply to that and holler at Michael to see if he has it.
Yep. So next on the list, we did mention Gregory Alexander's Google Lighthouse metrics for the Galaxy Blog 1.35. So,
I found the Twitch stream. It was in the Twitter conversation.
Oh, cool.
Look at me. I can read.
So talk about the Lighthouse metrics for Google. I guess he's finally given up. He's basically done nearly perfect with the Lighthouse scores. So he's pretty happy. He's get 90% performance, 100% accessibility, 100% best practices, and then 100% for search engine optimization. So those are pretty impressive numbers, especially when you look at the industry, closer to 20, 30, 40% for most of that. So pretty neat. I'm sure that we'd probably need some work if we threw CommandBox through it. So maybe that can be one of my sprints.
Putting a ticket
here.
for it right now.
Yeah. But yeah, we usually use some of the Google tools to check that out. And like I said, he's really focusing on that. And so looks like it's a big, if you're really concerned about those scores, then Galaxy Blog might be the one for you. Also, we had a podcast from CareTech, the State of the Union 2019 survey with Brad Wood. So I'm not sure when you recorded this and when it was originally released, but I just saw it pop up again.
We recorded it probably a couple months ago.
That's what I thought. So, but you had a good conversation
CareTech
about
guys usually have a bunch of podcasts in the pipes. So, it's basically just Raquel and I going through the results from the 2019 survey. And I love the State of the CF Union survey just because I can kind of see, what are the frameworks that are out there? What are the trends? What kind of databases? What operating systems are people using? And, is the maintainer of CommandBox and a committer on ColdBox. It's always interesting to see, how many people are still on Cold Fusion 9, how many people are still on Cold Fusion 11, how many people have moved from Lucy 4 to Lucy 5. And so we basically just kind of went through kind of blow by blow and analyzed a bunch of those responses and talked about them. So it's always a fun trend to see, stuff like source control. Are more people using it this year than last year? Things like that. And that's what that blog post basically, or not blog post, that's what that podcast was us just kind of going through talking about all those results.
Yep, and if you want, there's a transcript link there as well, so you can just read it if you don't want to hear Brad talking anymore today.
If you're that lazy.
There's also a tweet from Sean N. Henderson, CFML tip about replace list. So I guess today's tip, replace list is case sensitive, and there's no corresponding replace list, no case function in Lucy. It's only present in the Cold Fusion version 2016 or later. So most of the Cold Fusion functions have a replace, no case, etc. But not for replace list apparently. So it sounds like that's a Lucy ticket waiting to happen.
Yeah, so that must have been left out of the Adobe notes. I know that every time a new Adobe Ticket comes out, Misha, the lead developer on Lucy, will basically kind of put in a ticket in the Lucy bug base, and he'll kind of just parse through all the release notes and everything for that Adobe Cold Fusion version, and just build a list of all the new features they added, and he'll go through and add those all into Lucy. So if that wasn't added, then I'm sure it probably just was one of those things that didn't get documented or maybe get overlooked. But yeah, like you said, that's a ticket waiting to happen. I'll reply to the tweet and ask if there's a ticket for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things where Lucy always tries to be compatible with Adobe where possible, where Adobe doesn't seem to care what Lucy does. But yeah, so that's interesting.
I wish the other way around would happen more often.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really handy little things that Lucy does. Really minor stuff like directory delete, right? Lucy has an extra parameter that says ignore the directory if it's already gone, right? And Adobe Cold Fusion doesn't have that. So you always have to write like 3 lines of code. It's like, if directory exists, then directory delete. Like little stuff like that. Man, I wish Adobe would pick that stuff up and add it in, because that's some of the little tiny things that Lucy just really makes easier.
Yeah, and once you start porting, lots of legacy sites over, you'll notice all the differences pretty quick. And I know, like, as a framework developer, we build CommandBox that has to run on both engines. So some of the cool stuff we wish we could do, we just can't, because we've got to make them compatible. So we usually have to find the lowest common denominator instead of the nice, friendly way to do things. So
not in CommandBox.
Well,
see, that's my guilty pleasure in CommandBox, is I can use whatever the heck syntax is supported by whatever version of Lucy I'm bundling the CLI. Boom. Want to use arrow functions? Go for it, which I've actually started doing recently. It's really nice. It's
wow.
not like the ColdBox world where we're still supporting Cold Fusion 11, and that totally nixes all sorts of modern stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty funny the modern Cold Fusion framework is not modern, because we're going to support CF11 from 12 years ago. But anyways, we'll be dropping it soon. It's end of life. But so we also have the Kai Koenig tweet about Adobe not including Cold Fusion in their web development category. So that's listed there under that as well. And then Pete had another blog post about Cold Fusion function arguments now support integers. So I remember when this didn't happen on either of them, a lot of developers always put integer instead of numeric because that's what they think it is, and then it would throw a fit. And then I noticed it started a while back that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't error on us. And it looks like 2016, 2018, you can use integer as a type now for Cold Fusion arguments, but not for return
I would always
types.
get confused between numeric and number. And if I wasn't thinking clearly, I would try to type both words at the same time, and I type numeric.
Numeric. Well, you would, Brad. But so he mentions that. I guess there's some other options too. I guess you can use email now as a required field too. And so
yeah, it looks like almost everything you can pass into is valid can be a type. So I had a little chat with Pete about this on CFML Slack. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. So it seems this feature kind of snuck into Adobe Cold Fusion. I'd never seen or heard anything of it. I don't think it was documented. And of course, Lucy doesn't support it because we just noticed it. I don't know how I feel about it, though, because the problem is email's not really a type, right? So like, string is a type, struct is a type, array is a type, a CFC instance of user is a type.
That means serial number is social security number would be a type now too, because that's one.
Yeah, I haven't tried that, but I assume it would be. So like email isn't from a purist language design standpoint, as Sean Corfield would say. He always like to use that phrase. Email is not a data type, at least not a first class data type in Cold Fusion. But then again, Cold Fusion is a little waffly on what exactly are proper first class data types. Email is a thing that a string can be used as or validated as. So it kind of feels like they've kind of mixed and matched, type enforcement with validation. I don't know. Like, at first glance, I'm like, yeah, that seems useful. At second glance, I'm like, I don't know if I like it, just since, email is not really strictly a type. But I might have been in favor if they had maybe a slightly different syntax to enforce it. It's just a little odd. But then again, I mean, Cold Fusion by nature has always been sort of, vague on what really is a type. And Cold Fusion has always been big on, this just means this can be cast as, because it's an interesting,
Dynamic,
it's an interesting behavior not everybody's aware of. You can pass in a number that, behind the scenes is an actual, Java lang double, right? You can pass that into a function argument that's marked as a string. In Cold Fusion, Adobe or Lucy will not convert it to a Java lang string. It'll leave it as a Java lang double, but it will still pass the string check because it doesn't actually force it to be a true proper string. It simply says, can this string be turned, or can this variable rather be turned into a string if we need it to in the future? Which is kind of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, right? And so the answer to that is, well, yeah, sure, we could make this a string if we wanted, so it passes. So people will get confused sometimes. They'll declare a function and they'll say the parameter has to be a string, and they'll try to use like a string member function on it, my parameter.len, and then it blows up sometimes because it's not a string; it's a Java double behind the scenes. And I find that behavior really irritating, to be honest. Because Adobe and Lucy have the same sort of issue, but these UDF argument types are always a little vague in that they've never really been completely enforced. It's more just, can this incoming variable be used in this manner? So this kind of just makes it even a bit more vague. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure how much I care for it. But kudos on Pete for finding that, because that was definitely something that I don't think anybody had noticed. It was more of an accident that he came across it.
Well, yeah, it's always interesting, but yeah, I wonder if Lucy's gonna adopt those, or are they gonna discuss if they should adopt them or not?
If somebody puts in a ticket, I'm sure he will. By he, I mean Misha. I mean, generally speaking, unless it goes against a core principle of Lucy, or like for instance, Lucy passes arrays by reference, right? They're not going to change that. Period. For lots of reasons. CF thread doesn't duplicate complex arguments in Lucy. They're not going to change that. Outside of a few scenarios in which they're like, no, that's a stupid design decision, we're not going to follow it. Generally speaking, Lucy will always just do whatever Cold Fusion does in that regard. So I have a feeling eventually someone will put in a ticket for this and it'll get done. Even though I wish Adobe had talked to the community first about this, because I would have probably suggested a couple alternative ways to accomplish it, but oh well. Yeah. They didn't ask me my opinion, Gavin.
Yeah, we know Biddens do that.
Yeah. They're like, oh, geez, don't ask him. He'll probably complain about everything.
Well, it looks like you're busy on Twitter again. You're also tweeting about when reporting a Lucy regression, how to get a higher priority on it. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I did tweet that. The tweet is true and informational. It was also tweeted out of a bit of frustration in that I had reported some regressions in Lucy 5.3 months ago, and I thought it was kind of obvious it was a regression because it was something that had always worked before, and it suddenly stopped working. But there was never any movement on the ticket, which was entered as a bug. And I enter most things as bugs nowadays, because I've learned that enhancements go to the pit of despair. So I was watching Princess Bride last night with my daughter. So, but I finally was able to catch Misha, and I asked him, like, hey, what's the status on this, bug? Like, this is one of the major regressions is preventing CommandBox from being able to use Lucy 5.3. And the answer was he ignored it because he didn't know it was a regression. So I was like, are you kidding? Like, I thought it was obvious it was a regression, but I hadn't explicitly marked it as a regression by using the word, quote, regression, end quote, anywhere in the ticket, or adding the regression label or component or whatever it's called to the ticket. So for what it's worth, bugs that are also a specific regression, meaning a new version of Lucy comes out and breaks something that used to work, those were given a higher priority than just a bug that's always existed. So even if you think it's clear that you're reporting a regression in a new version of Lucy, and you even set the version of Lucy that it broke on, make sure that you actually very explicitly state this is a regression that used to work and just now quit working, and add that regression tag to it, and that'll make sure that Misha and Patrick, the project manager for Lucy, will see that and put it as a little bit higher priority, because they do try to fix regressions if possible in the very next version. So unfortunately, this regression, the regression in question that led me to put this tweet out, is going to have taken 2 or 3 releases of Lucy before the stupid thing finally gets fixed now, which is frustrating when something breaks in the first place. But when it breaks and it's not fixed in the next release, or the one after, and you have to wait 2 or 3 releases, obviously it keeps kicking, the can down the road. So
Yep.
make sure you tag those regressions as such if you ever want them fixed.
Yeah, ever. Yep. Again, we have a tweet from Gray Disman, the Cold Fusion Specialist Certification, talking about how he's happy they're all, said that they're all shown on script. Didn't say if you're happy about it or not, but we mentioned this one earlier, so I'll skip past this. We also have a blog post from Michael Bourne about getting started in CFML, the resource list for newbies. So you were talking before about converting people over to using Cold Fusion from .NET or other walks of life and other languages. So we started a little list here, and he's going to try and keep that list up to date. But if you guys got any anything you want to add to it or whatever, comment or message him with links, and he'll try and get those updates done.
See, a lot of times there's information out there and people just don't know about it. So we got the modern CFML in 100 minutes. We have CF in a week. CF Docs, Lucy Docs, Slack, forums, podcast. Oh, look, we're listed here. Yeah, this is great. This is a great resource. I put it there in the chat, you guys.
Very cool.
He even has a link to his Twitch channel. See, he's committed now. Michael's now committed to publishing regular live Twitch streams of his coding.
Yep. 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock every day.
9 to 5.
I don't think he can do that. There's a few NDA stuff things I'm sure he works on. Anyway, so okay, we got a couple of job opportunities, as you mentioned before. People always looking for jobs and developers, but there's a couple more listed here. So there's a Cold Fusion software engineer position, full-time at Webstaurant store. It looks like it's full-time.
A Webstaurant store?
Yeah, Webstaurant.
That is a brand new one. Wow.
Yep, and that's in Tampa, Florida.
There's that Webstaurant link.
Cool. So they're looking for Cold Fusion version 9+.
9+. That's they better be hiring someone to help them upgrade.
Yeah. Well, they said 9+ at least, so that means they want something semi-recent.
Yeah,
for the last
they
years.
wouldn't say 9+ unless they had Cold Fusion 9 in their stack. So
probably. So
if hot tip: if you interview there, your first question is, where are you at in your upgrade process? And if they're not like halfway through it or hiring you to execute it, you better have a heart-to-heart with them.
Yep. Or add a legacy tax to your negotiation.
A legacy tax. I like that. Yep. I'm going to work for you, but if you make me touch your legacy code, it's going to cost you.
Yep. You got to do something to make the pain feel better. And we have another position full-time at Accenture in Pune, Maharashtra, India.
Let's go with that one.
So looking for responsibility of translating the UI UX design frameworks to actual code. That'll be HTML5, etc. And they'll work with the UI UX to bridge the gap between graphic design and technical implementation. So it is a Cold Fusion developer, so it looks like you'll be, working with designers and implementing that in HTML and Cold Fusion. So
nice.
Okay.
All right. Last minute addition right here. I saw this come on Twitter earlier today. This isn't a job offer. It's actually the other way around. If you are looking to hire a developer, the Fat Panther, I forget his real name, even though I've met him before at the Cold Fusion Summit, and he always changes his name on Twitter. Like every month, it's a different name. But username Fat Panther, he posted today that he's in the Sacramento area, and his contract will be up in December. So if anyone in the Sacramento area is hiring and looking for a Cold Fusion developer, we'll put that link in there too. You can reach out to him.
Yeah, it looks like he's got 20 plus years of experience in Cold Fusion, JavaScript, UX, and kick-ass business analyst skills.
Look at that. I mean, doesn't get any better, right?
Exactly. So, cool. Well, that concludes our blogs, tweets, videos, and jobs of the week. And next up, we have our ForgeBox module of the week. So, doing a lot of work with APIs, as I usually do, and we actually made a couple of updates this last week to one of the modules, so I decided that should be the module of the week. So it's a module by Eric Peterson. It's the cores module. So if you've worked with APIs and you've made it off of your local host, you've probably been bitten by cores.
So what is cores, Gavin? CORS. What does that mean?
cross-origin resource something, I forget. But basically it means...
Cool story, bro.
Yeah. You can look
Cross-origin resource sharing.
Sharing. Okay.
Thank you, Google.
Yep. As I say, you can Google that. But yeah, so basically, when one website is trying to talk to another website via JavaScript or API requests, etc., and a lot of things will get blocked because it's not safe to do so. So if your browser makes a request, usually it sends certain information with that request, and then the server has to respond a certain way to let it know it's okay to continue, otherwise the browser will block it. If you're going from localhost to localhost, and the ports are the same, you don't usually have any problems, but as soon as you change ports or change host name, you'll run into these cause issues. So this module is cool because it adds all the cause headers to your app in one module. It detects the cause requests, validates them against your configured origins, and handles pre-flight requests.
Good old browser security. I know. I remember the good old days back when you could just, make AJAX calls wherever the heck you wanted, and browsers didn't care.
Yep, but now they do. So yeah, this module works nicely. We made a few changes to the way it works for option calls as well, because we were using CBGuard, another module I think we've talked about in the past, to do some work. We had interception points firing for validating API tokens and that stuff. Some of the things you'll see at your training in Vegas, I'm sure. And so we had to make some changes to options requests. Because options requests, you don't actually send the authorization headers through. So it was trying to validate that your token was valid, but on an option request, but
I never knew
it wasn't
that.
there. So
I guess options aren't supposed to have any server-side processing. It's just supposed to get a list back of
what you can
run, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
it looks like Chorus has 12 versions and almost 3,000 installs. So
yep, it's a pretty cool little
module.
So check it out. And like I said, it makes your life easier if you're having to deal with that. So, and there are some options you can configure it, but pretty much out of the box, it should do most of what you need. So yeah, so that's the module. And let me just show you here what it looks like on ForgeBox. So cause modules, you see some of the configuration there as well. So some options. So this is sort of the default configuration. So if you don't want to mess with it, you can do that. A lot of origins by default lets everybody communicate, but you can lock it down if you need to. So there we go. And then next on our list, we come to the VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. And this one actually came from a tweet, which one I didn't mention in the list, but James Moberg, or Game Over is his Twitter handle.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yep. He tweeted, he said he wanted to track his Cold Fusion development time using VS Code, because Waka Time uses paid subscription and uses Google Analytics and can be sluggish at times. I've switched to Coding Tracker and using CFML to generate reports, filterable reports, and interactive graphs. So basically this week, our VS Code extension of the week is Coding Tracker. So it's a VS Code extension that will actually track your coding activities. So you can run reports and figure out how much time you spent on each project. You can base it on branches or projects based on certain files, etc. And then you can produce nice little pretty graphs and stuff. So it's only got about 5,000 downloads right now, but it is 5 stars for those 9 people that have actually taken the time to review it. So I don't know how
it's a skewed demographic.
But James is using it, and he recommended it via a tweet. So I thought that's pretty cool. We'd add that one in. So pretty easy to get going. Just search for Coding Tracker. It looks like Liu was the designer of this. It supports multiple languages too, which is pretty neat. So that's kind of pretty cool out there. So anyway, that's our VS Code tip, trick, and a hint of the week. So again, I might have to try that one out. I'm curious how it works. Obviously, we're not always in code when we do our work, but it's kind of nice to be able to get a report on it. Might be interesting to see, what projects I spend most of my time in. So good one to try out. So then next,
so I'm curious if it only captures time when you're actually like writing code, or if you just had that project open and like go to lunch. Does that count for an hour of being on that project?
Yeah, I'm curious if it's the one in focus or not. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess we'll have to try it and find out. So, but yeah, I was thinking the same thing because a lot of times I'll have 3 or 4 open because I have like, my API open in one, have my JavaScript in another, my Cold Fusion code in another if I'm doing different things, and I got Windows everywhere. So, yeah,
Windows
I'm curious. Okay, so now come to that time of the show. We thank our Patreon supporters. So we've updated the picture. If you're watching the video, the picture is updated. And we have the full list updated as well. So there was a couple new ones last week that we added. If you go to ortusolutions.com/about-us/sponsors, you can see all the sponsors, including some of the top-notch sponsors as well. We actually have a little category of what it was called, superstars. What are we called in here?
It's like a top shelf sponsor.
Hall of Fame. So all of our sponsors are important to keep our open source projects alive, which are grateful. However, there's a few that stands out. And so the SEO for search engine optimization, a Hollander company, Andrew Davis from Blue Water Business Solutions, Don Bellamy, and there's a link to his LinkedIn profile, and Eric Hoffman. And so those are all available on the about-us/sponsors page, and also tells you a little more about some of the other sponsoring organizations. But we want to thank everyone who's a sponsor here. And if you aren't a Patreon sponsor and you'd like to sponsor us, check out that site. And then on Patreon, there are a lot of different levels too. So if you want to, pick a higher level, there's more perks for being a bigger supporter. And we want to, thank everybody who can support, whether it's an individual or a company. We appreciate all the help. It really does make a big difference. So you want to try and slaughter these names?
Sure. Andrew Davis, Brian White, Carl von Stetten, Dali, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, David Bellinger, Didier Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Janek, Jeremy Adams, John Ferrari, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamoury, Laskma Titoradi, I'm going to guess on that one, Matthew Clement, Richard Herbert, Samuel Knowlton, Scott Steinbeck, VJ, and Yogesh Mathur. Thank you to all of you guys who help support Ortus open source.
So we can say thank you. You guys helped get CommandBox 4.8 out today.
That's right. You all pushed the button with me to run the Jenkins build. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, that's another week. It's a wrap. It's a long one. We had a lot of great content. You guys are pumping out lots of good stuff, so thank you for sharing it. If you guys want to make sure that we see it, make sure you tag it with this hash CFML, and you can tag myself, Brad, Ortus Solutions, where we watch all those channels on Twitter.
We never sleep.
That's for sure. And for those of you coming to CF Summit, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Adios.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.